Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's My League Mode. My name is Pete and today we complete the final part of the first season with our expansion team, the Louisville Legionnaires. Last time we completed the All-Star weekend and we're now in March with only 19 games to go, and I can't wait to finally get into the off-season, make a few moves and also see where we end up in the draft. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, let's focus on the here and now first, and before we get started with the game against Brooklyn, we have one small roster move to make. This was actually suggested in the comments last time, and I think it's quite the good idea. For the remainder of the season, we are going to send Zhou Qi down to the G League. Right now, he is still sadly only the third option at center, but the guy has amazing potential. I think the only thing he needs is a bit of time and experience. And gaining experience, that is exactly what the G League is for. So for the remaining 19 games, or until one of our big men gets injured, we will send him down there. And that also means that in our rotation, Deontay Davis is back as the starting center, backed up by Cheick Diallo. And our rotation experiment for this week will be at the shooting guard, where as much as it pains me, Josh Richardson will sit out the next few games and Alex Abrines will start. We will also have a closer look at Rashad Vaughn, who will get about 18 minutes off the bench, and like I said, Richardson out of the rotation for the next few games to give room to the other guys. And our first game with that rotation against the Brooklyn Nets, one hell of a success. We absolutely demolished the Nets at home and keep them below 20 points in every single quarter, and come away with a dominant 104-68 victory. And Abrines also immediately making the most out of his new role, leading the team in scoring with 20 points in 33 minutes. Rashad Vaughn a bit more quiet with 6 points and 5 rebounds, but also 3 steals and a block, and I think those numbers are nothing to complain about in just 18 minutes. The next game then against the New York Knicks, and this one was pretty damn close again. As a matter of fact, it was so close that after 48 minutes, at the end of regular playing time, no team had a lead. And so, tied at 93 points, we go into overtime, I believe for the first time ever. In overtime then the Knicks get the better of us, and so the final result 110-105. Both Abrines and Vaughn pretty quiet in this one, but Yogi Ferrell deserves a mention. Almost got the triple-double here tonight with 23 points, 8 rebounds and 10 assists. Yes, he also had 5 turnovers, but all in all a very promising performance from him. And like I said, Abrines and Vaughn rather underwhelming in this one. Abrines with only 4 points in 38 minutes and a horrific 1 of 9 shooting performance, while Vaughn at least got 2 steals, but 2 of 9 shooting not much better. What followed was another close game and another close loss against the Detroit Pistons, and in this one Abrines back as the scoring leader with 21 points. However, this game was dominated by foul trouble. As you can see here, Abrines with 6, he would foul out of the game, and he was not the only one to do so. Mo Harkless with 6 fouls as well, and Deontay Davis also had 6. So 3 of our starters out of the game before it ended, and Deontay Davis managed to achieve this in only 15 minutes, and considering that, it's actually quite surprising that we remained competitive at all in this game. Rashad Vaughn, by the way, once again too quiet to earn himself a spot in the rotation. Yes, the steals are there, averaging 2 per game over the last week, but he shot a combined 5 of 19 over the last 3 games, good enough for a horrible shooting percentage of 26%, and while I still think that Vaughn has potential to develop into a serviceable role player, right now both Richardson and Abrines are clearly the better options. I also stopped the rotation experiments for this week, so we're playing with our usual starting 5 plus Ulis, Abrines, Kuzma, Johnson and Diallo off the bench. Our next game then a rematch against the Las Vegas Aces, and while we simulated the first matchup I played this one myself, because I really wanted to get a look at how the other expansion team is playing. And to be honest, they played very well. In the end, we came out on top with a close 3-point victory, but winning this game was definitely a challenging task, and the Aces guard combo of JJ Redick and Jeremy Lin was doing a fine job tonight, really making things tough for us in the end. Our man of the match, without a doubt Josh Richardson, who scored 29 points, including 5 3-pointers, and most of those points actually came in the first half, a half that he finished with 20 points already. Other noteworthy performances, Kyle Kuzma with 20 points, Mo Harkless with a 12-point, 11-rebound double-double, Deontay Davis with 7 points, 11 rebounds and 3 blocks, and Cheick Diallo with a somewhat similar stat line, 4 points, 11 rebounds and 2 blocks. Up next, the New Orleans Pelicans, who we comfortably beat 106-90, and while no one really stood out performance-wise in this one, with Hernangomez, Ulis, Richardson, Johnson, Abrines, Harkless and Kuzma, a total of 7 players scored in double digits for us, which is of course nice to see, especially if it results in a victory. Against the Magic then, the 2-game win streak comes to an end as the Magic beat us by 8 points at home. The big bright spot in this one, Tyler Ulis, who set the franchise record for scoring in the single game, shooting 11 of 21 from the field for 32 points. The rest of the team though somewhat underwhelming. Against the Bulls then, we managed to quickly turn things around again. We pick up the lead in the first quarter and never give it back, and end up destroying the Bulls by 41 points. Once again, Tyler Ulis leading the team in scoring with 24 to go along with 6 assists, and also once again a great performance from Josh Richardson, who scored 21 points, grabbed 4 rebounds and also had 3 steals. So, 12 games left in the regular season and we're about to make one final roster move. This was also something that I noticed in the comment section, and once again I liked the idea. The player that we're talking about is Kay Felder. Now, Felder has been, I think it's safe to say, underwhelming. Once again, yes, at 22 years old he's an interesting prospect, but he is very similar to Tyler Ulis, who is rating-wise a few steps ahead of him. Now, we signed Felder at the beginning of the season and he also still has a team option, but I don't think we're going to pick that up. So realistically, he will be gone at the end of the season anyway, and I think we can accelerate that process and gain something in return. So, step number 1, we're going to release Kay Felder back into free agency. This now frees up a roster spot and we're going to fill that with another veteran. For our big man, we have Anderson Varejao already under contract for the rest of the season, and so I think another veteran guard can't hurt at this point. And there are a bunch of interesting options here. In the end though, I decided to go with Jarrett Jack. Jack is a 13-year pro, a point guard focused primarily on playmaking, and I think he has the potential to teach our young guys a thing or two. In terms of his contract, we once again won't do anything fancy here. Instead, we're going to simply offer him a 1-year minimum contract, and I see no reason why he wouldn't accept that. Alright, here we are, Jarrett Jack joins the squad. Let's hope he has a positive impact on our young talent. Now, our next 2 games are both against the Detroit Pistons, and while simulating that first one, I actually noticed that it was very close up until the end, so I jumped in for the last few minutes, hoping to turn things around, but sadly the Pistons barely squeezed by and came away with the victory. And one main reason for that might have been the performance of Andre Drummond. 20 points, 13 rebounds, so far so good, but 8 steals and 5 blocks. The guy is apparently a defensive monster in 2K. On the bright side, Richardson once again with a great performance with 27 points, Ferrell also getting comfortable in his role as a starting point guard with 18 points and 7 assists, and Deontay Davis and Bryce Johnson both with a double-double tonight as well. In the second game then, we get our revenge at home. The final score, Legionnaires 133, Pistons 116. Ferrell and Richardson once again lead the squad, Ferrell with 21, Richardson with 20, but after the game we receive some bad news as Juan Hernangomez has apparently suffered an injury. This will keep him out of action for at least 1 to 2 weeks, and I think as a precaution we might as well sit him out for the rest of the season. For now though, he definitely gets replaced in the lineup, and the man to take his spot as the starting power forward will be Bryce Johnson. Off the bench then, another chance for Tyler Lydon to prove himself, as he will now play roughly 20 minutes per game, likely switching back and forth between the power forward and small forward spot, just like Kyle Kuzma. Against the Pacers then, our new rotation already proves to be successful, as we beat Indiana by 39 points. Our top scorer, no surprises here, once again Josh Richardson, but Ulis off the bench with 21 and 6, having a good game as well. Also, since he's new in the rotation, a quick look at Tyler Lydon, who had 8 points, 3 rebounds and 1 steal in 21 minutes. And with that, we have only 9 games left on the schedule, and let's try to get these over with quickly. We start things off with a 23-point loss against the Kings, and apart from Bryce Johnson and Yogi Ferrell, no one really standing out here. Ferrell though with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists and 4 steals, a pretty impressive stat line. Ferrell would also be the one with the best performance in our win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who we defeat by 10 points back home in Louisville. And as I mentioned, Ferrell impressive with 26 points and 4 rebounds, but Harkless, Ulis, Abrinas and Diallo all in double digits as well. Third and last game of that week, a loss in San Antonio. Despite a nice comeback in the fourth quarter, the Spurs still beat us by 15, and performance-wise, once again, nothing too impressive here, although Bryce Johnson with a 15-point, 11-rebound double-double, and Deontay Davis with 11 points, 10 rebounds and 2 blocks, both of them not looking too bad in this one. After the game then, once again an injury, and this one a bit problematic because we're slowly running out of big men. This time it's Tyler Lydon, who will likely also be out for the rest of the season, and so because I don't really want to slide Anderson Varejao into the rotation, we will give the minutes to Rashad Vaughn. Now Vaughn is of course not a big man, but he can play the small forward position, which means that off the bench Kyle Kuzma can now slide in at power forward and replace Tyler Lydon. Since we now have 2 players on the injured list, let's also call Zhou Qi up from the G League. He won't get minutes in the rotation right now, but should we ever get into foul trouble or someone else gets injured, I would like to have him on the bench. With these adjustments made, we can then head into our matchup with the Charlotte Hornets. Once again, a game that was close in the 4th quarter, so I decided to hop in. Unfortunately though, my efforts were not enough and I was unable to come back from a 5-point deficit, and so in the end the Hornets come out on top with a narrow 1-point victory. Ulis, Harkless, Johnson, Farrell and Richardson all scored in double figures in this game, with Ulis's 18 points, 4 assists and 2 steals on 8 of 11 shooting probably being the most impressive stat line. 5 more games remain, and up next we have the Lakers against us, and this one resulting in a close 6-point loss for us. Now at this point I also decided to go with this slightly more compact version of the box score, simply because it shows all the important stats in one place. Important in this game, probably only the top 3 guys here: Bryce Johnson with 21 points, 7 rebounds and assists, 2 steals on the block, Yogi Ferrell with 17 points, 5 assists and also 2 steals, and Deontay Davis once again barely missing out on the double-double with 13 points, 9 rebounds and 2 blocks. After the game then another injury, this time to Josh Richardson, and it seems like at the end of the season our guys are slowly starting to break down. And with Richardson now also out for the rest of the season, I decided to say screw it, let's give the guys minutes who haven't seen much playing time for the entire year. So I decided to completely overhaul the rotations, and we're now bringing those guys out who may not have received that many chances over the year. This is done to kind of say thank you to these players. We all know that the majority of them have tremendous potential, but the sad truth is that we simply cannot fit everyone into our rotation. So for the last 4 games, our starting 5 will consist of Jarrett Jack, Alex Abrines, Kyle Kuzma, Cheick Diallo and Zhou Qi, while off the bench we'll have Tyler Ulis, Rashad Vaughn, Bryce Johnson, Mo Harkless and Anderson Varejao. That also means that Farrell, Davis, Richardson, Hernangomez and Lydon will rest until the end of the season, and I think they have more than earned it. Our next game then against the Milwaukee Bucks, and once again a close loss. In the end we fall short 93-97. The performance of the night definitely belongs to Kyle Kuzma, who tied the franchise scoring record with 32 points, and he also grabbed 11 rebounds to complete the double-double. In Atlanta then another close defeat, 109-107, and this time the honorable mention goes to Bryce Johnson, who leads our team in scoring with 24 points. Second to last game of the season then against the Brooklyn Nets, who beat us by 8 points back home in Louisville, and I don't have that much to mention here. Maybe just real quick, Bryce Johnson and Cheick Diallo, who were both able to grab another double-double today. And that leaves us with our season finale against the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix currently by far the worst team in the league, so maybe we're able to finish the season with a victory. And indeed, for game number 82 we are finally successful again, beating the Suns in Phoenix 112-88. Performance of the night, Tyler Ulis, who missed only a single shot and finished the game with 24 points in 24 minutes. And with that our first regular season is completed, and 2K takes us straight to the end of the season awards now. The most important award is up first. The MVP goes to James Harden this year, averaging almost 31 points a game, 8 rebounds and 9 assists. Rookie of the Year goes to Lonzo Ball with 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, 8 assists and almost 2 steals per game, while Sixth Man of the Year goes to Rudy Gay, who averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds for the San Antonio Spurs. The Defensive Player of the Year award is well deserved for Rudy Gobert, who finished the season averaging almost 20 points and 14 rebounds, to go along with almost 1 steal and 3 blocks per game. Most Improved Player then sadly not Norman Powell but Elfrid Payton, who averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds and 7.5 assists. And last but not least, Coach of the Year goes to Houston's Mike D'Antoni, who pushed his team to a 65-win record. Up next, Harden, Westbrook, James, Antetokounmpo and Cousins make the All-NBA first team, while Paul, DeRozan, Durant, Davis and Gobert make the second team, and Lillard, Wall, George, Leonard and Gobert make the All-NBA third team. Very interesting here, Stephen Curry does not make an All-NBA team, and other notable players who are being left out this year include, for example, Jimmy Butler, as well as Kyrie Irving and Karl Anthony Towns. First team All-Defense, Westbrook, Wall, Green, Davis and Gobert, and the second team Paul, Harden, Antetokounmpo, James and Drummond. How Drummond and especially Harden ended up here, I have no idea. The all-rookie first team is headlined by Rookie of the Year Lonzo Ball and completed by Fultz, Simmons, Smith and Teodosic. The all-rookie second team then made up of Fox, Collins, Tatum, Jackson and Markkanen, and with that I think we have all the regular season awards completed. So let's have a look at what's up next, and up next are obviously the playoffs. Out west, the first-seeded Warriors will face the Spurs in the first round. That certainly promises to be an interesting matchup. The Jazz and Pelicans also face off in the first round after securing very nice spots in the west, and the other two matchups are Oklahoma City against Denver and Houston against the Clippers. And that last one certainly involving a nice storyline surrounding Chris Paul. Out east, we have one of the most interesting matchups already in the first round. After a slow start to the season, the Celtics barely managed to get a playoff spot, and they're now being rewarded with a first-round matchup against the Cavaliers. Philadelphia and Charlotte both definitely exceeded my expectations and finished 4th and 5th respectively, and that means they will meet in the first round as well. Additionally, Toronto will meet Milwaukee, and the Detroit Pistons will face the Washington Wizards. Now, originally, I also had planned to do kind of a regular season evaluation at this point, having a closer look at our stats throughout the season, and also using the normal per 36 minutes and advanced stats to compare our players with each other. Then I noticed that this video is already going on for well over 15 minutes, and I don't want this episode to completely stand out in this series, so I think we're simply going to postpone that evaluation to next time, where we will also simulate through the playoffs and see who will become NBA champion. For today's episode though, let's make the cut here, and let's celebrate the completion of our first regular season. With 30 wins, I think it was a rather successful one. Now, as always, leave a thumbs up if you like this episode, and if you want to support the channel, then feel free to subscribe. And also, a new episode of South Park: The Stick of Truth just went up yesterday, so if fighting Mongolians and meth tweakers sounds like something that you might enjoy, then go ahead and click the link to that video on screen. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.